Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us here today. After a wonderful session by Jeroen, it's time we dive into the discussion of the hour, digitalization of flower logistics. Well, even though Jeroen's session is over, we are not over with Jeroen yet, and we are going to bother him with more questions in this panel again. I am Rajashri Chatterjee from Logistics Update Africa, and I'll be facilitating this conversation. So welcome Jeroen, Moses, Sam, and Patricia. Today we are exploring how digitalization can play a crucial role in enhancing supply chain visibility, optimizing resource allocation, reducing waste, and ultimately ensuring fresh flowers from farms reach global consumers efficiently. Moving on to the discussion, first question is for Moses. Why do you think digitalization of flower logistics is the need of the hour, and how digitalization has made your life easier?
Hi. I think the elephant in the room should be, do we know what do we mean by digitalization in the flower logistics? And for the many years, the flower industry is coming now in the picture that digital is the way to go in terms of the flower logistics. And digital or digitalization means you are embracing something with Internet of Things or simply integration. So in the flower logistics, I can boldly say that the main thing that digitalization has brought in is efficiency in the output of things. From the harvesting in the supply chain, because we usually start from the harvesting to the packing, all through until the products get to the client. I am a witness of this digitalization in the supply chain currently where I'm working. And this has really improved even the way that the work is being done even in the flower industry. One thing, at the comfort of my seat in Nairobi, I can know the flowers that have been harvested in our farm in Timau. Why is that? Because of digital, because of digitalization. It's just an app that there is being used. You just scan what has been harvested, what has been taken to the pack house, and at the comfort of my seat in Nairobi, I can allocate the product to the client. So it's efficient, and I can quickly allocate all the products based on what I have seen on the online platform. So efficiency is the keyword. Then the next thing is cost reduction. When I started in the flower industry, we used to have, like the harvesting used to be done and recorded in a bigger book. So imagine you have a full greenhouse and you have maybe like 1 hectare having 18 bays, and every grower has his or her own book recording the stems that he or she has harvested. And then you have to compare all those books, take them to the pack house, and then they will start tabulating, showing, let's say, summarizing the total number of stems that you have harvested. But nowadays, it's never done like that. Because you can just scan the barcode of what has been harvested, and you get the information, right? Even wherever you are. So basically, it has also contributed to reducing the cost, because the growers are not also buying the many books that we used to, recording the flowers, recording what has been bunched. You just need to have a data entry crack, or maybe you have a software, and you tabulate everything, and everyone in the chain is informed.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you for that answer. Well, my next question is for Sam. Well, a study by Blue Ridge found that supply chain disruptions can lead to significant financial losses, logistical challenges, and harm to reputation. But with digitalization, we can achieve end-to-end supply chain visibility. So can you elaborate on how data analytics and collaborative data sharing can reduce cost, provide more visibility, enable a targeted approach, and boost efficiency?
Um, yeah, sure. I want to elaborate on that. As we have a few examples in Brussels, how we did try to tackle those issues. And of course, these are a little bit more air freight specific than purely the flower growing process or activity. But the first example that I would like to give that we rolled out in the last couple of years is digital green lane. And that's actually a grouping of different solutions that we worked out throughout the years for different problems. And before going into a little bit of the details, I think what is mentioning or worth mentioning there is, first of all, the collaborative approach. And the example what Moses gave is also one where it's still within a company, and that's sometimes the issue, that we see that there are very good initiatives, but they stay within one company or within part of the chain. And what we did there is, like, we saw a few issues, we tackled them individually, and then after they were tackled, we grouped them. So one of them was the slot issues at the ground handling agents for trucks. So there the slot booking app came into play. Another issue was getting the correct information to customs for clearance of the goods, and on the other hand, for the import to the phytosanitary authorities. So again, two solutions we separately helped develop with the community to tackle those issues. But those were still, as we would compare, at the company level. And what we did then, once they were up and running, once people saw the benefits, we grouped them and we connected them to a complete supply chain solution. And when I say complete supply chain, I mean, of course, the supply chain in Brussels and in a few other airports. But what we still don't see is that connection with very good initiatives on a origin level, or sometimes even in between on an airline or a forwarder level. And so there, I think the next steps for these initiatives should be taken, where people realize that as long as they keep solutions and keep good initiatives within their company, things still will go wrong down the line. And again, to pick in on what was just said, I love to hear the fact that all the boxes are scanned individually. We can actually identify boxes on a piece level, and we have a good overview of everything what's there. And still what we see at the airport, that if there's a miscount or there's a mistake between the phytosanitary document, which is still often like a paper document, although an e-phyto is available, and I would love to check later on what the percentage now in Kenya is of usage of the e-phyto. But we still see that a shipment can be blocked, or even worse, partially or completely destroyed, because there is a miscount and because piece level information is not available, or detailed packing lists are not available. And I think there is the next steps we should take towards digitization. These local or these company or company level initiatives are very good and needed, but combining them on a bigger level and making sure that this information trickles through and is used, that's the next challenge. Because otherwise we can have perfect systems on all the different parts of the chain, but if they don't communicate and if they don't exchange, we're still as far as we were before. So I think there lies the next step to take, and we gladly would take that with everybody here.
Yeah. Adding on to that, Sam, so flower is something very delicate, and it requires a lot of care. So in terms of like digitalization of flower logistics, how do you think it can improve the end-to-end supply chain from flower to the end customer, that visibility?
To go back to the previous presentation, less waste, longer shelf life, just an overall better product. Because now every step that is not efficient or is not taking as quick as would be possible is a loss of these perishable. And then solutions as vacuum coolers and other solutions are quite sometimes necessary but quite expensive solutions for sometimes a problem that is much simpler to tackle by just exchanging the information that is already there and that is already captured. And I think in the last 5 years, we as an industry, but also locally, there like tremendous steps has been taken. So it's not longer that the information is not there or it's not captured or it's still all on paper, although sometimes it's the case. But now it's there, but it's still not exchanged or still not used for some reason or another. So I think there we can still benefit greatly, and the products can still benefit greatly. Yeah.
So Jeroen, would you like to add something onto that?
I think besides this information and sharing, I think this is also aligning efforts. And then also with it comes to the discussion, if an airport has to make an investment or if the ground handlers have to make an investment, who will benefit from it? There's someone saving labor, there's someone having better flowers, there's somewhere less risk. And that in this supply chain, it's not an easy step to have these steps aligned. The airport is far away, is not actually doing anything to the flowers, but they're hosting the ground handlers. The ground handlers are servicing an airline, but the airline is hired by the freight forwarder, who is hired by the consignee or the grower itself. And I think that is a big challenge in this industry. At certain points, we must align efforts, but it's so far away from the final decision maker that this discussion is a bit in a gray area, and therefore I think we are too slow in landing those improvements. I think we can do better in reducing our footprint. I think we can do better delivering a fine product, and there's a lot of money involved there. But how can we make sure we land it, and who's going to be the leader in following that, in making sure that the discussion takes place and that decisions are made. And I think that is where I just met Rachel. They've done an investment here on the airport. They're now looking at doing a similar investment elsewhere. How are we going to advertise that service and the value of that service? And if that service results in labor savings by someone providing a service at the flower auction, how do we take that money back? And I think at this moment, because of the unclarity, things go relatively slowly. And that's a situation that I personally feel as in, hey, that's why I wake up in the morning. I want to make an impact there.
Thank you for that answer. My next question is for Patricia. So now that Astral Aviation has resumed its weekly cargo again from Sharjah to Eldora after 4 months of suspension, first tell us how this operation has been performing.
Okay, we've been doing that route since last year, but we stopped in September. I think for most people in the air freight industry, you do know that every time there's a new government, normally there's stoppage of flights into Eldoret for them to discuss about the tax regime. So we stopped in September. Then there were discussions going on over the new taxation that is supposed to be subject there. For those who don't know, in Nairobi, the taxation was as per the commodity, but in Eldoret, to promote Eldoret, because it's an airport that is not so utilized like JKI and Mombasa, to promote other airlines and other freighters to go into that place, they give an incentive through the tax, which is based on the weight of the aircraft and not per commodity. So this was unblocked on March 9th, and we are flying in there. First we were arriving on Thursday, but now we'll be arriving on Saturdays. This is because they need to do the tracking. I think most of you know that this kind of service is used by African Salihia, because most of their cargo, some of it is e-commerce, but most of it goes to Italy. So they like a Saturday arrival so that they track and bring it in so that they start selling on Monday. So far it's been successful. We first started with a weight of 20 tons. Now we're doing about 36. And probably by end of April, we will have 2 services per week. So it's a successful route for us at the moment.
So how this resumed service is going to affect the flower logistics, and how are you leveraging digitalization and data visibility to optimize cargo operation on this route?
Okay, the discussions have been on about how to uplift flowers from Eldoret. These discussions have been on even when I was working at Kenya Airways, and now they're being refreshed again right now. There's a working group on that. The main challenge has been the altitude, because if you fly out of there, you lose payload. That means you'll have less flowers our aircraft is a 40-ton aircraft, so we would fly with maybe something like 25 or 30 tons. That means we have to come to Nairobi, and that's another cost to come and pick up the flowers and then go on forward. The other thing is most people are used to bringing their flowers into Nairobi. So reorganizing those who are used to tracking from Eldoret and bringing to Nairobi is also another issue. The infrastructure there, it will take some time for them to have everything ready for that. So there's a caucus group that is working on that, and we hope that maybe by the end of the year or mid this year, maybe there'll be some conclusion on whether we are going to go for it or not. In terms of digitalization, we have a system we're using, a cargo reservation system, which is called eCargoWare. So as an airline, that is where we do the bookings, and with eAirwaybill, most of our customers, they do the bookings right from their desks, and it comes to us, and they don't have to send us an email. And because it is web-based, and most airlines are using this. And for us as Astral, because we go to our whole network, we go to some airports which are not the normal kind of airports like Bujibai, Malakal. With that, we're able to give visibility to the customer, because when they come to our track and trace, they can be able to see whether their cargo has moved or it hasn't moved. And soon we'll be launching the app side of our eCargoWare, such that on the phone, any customer from anywhere can be able to see the movement of their cargo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we know that due to certain incidences, like if there is a political instability such as a war or a natural disaster or a cyber threat. So in this context, how can digitalization and data sharing and end-to-end visibility can help mitigate such risk and situations?
Okay. For us, this helps us because we are able to put it in our different channels, whether it is Twitter, XO, all the social media platforms that we've canceled a flight or there is war in this area, so we're not going in. And even we're able to get real time from the airports authorities to know that there's a strike here. Like in Europe, when there's a strike, we get to know, and we're able to push that, and customers would then know we are canceling the flight, then would say we are going to operate on this and that day, so that people stop being anxious and they're able to plan. If there's a cyber threat nowadays with various platforms, you're able to know and put it in the system and look at risk mitigation to know how to improve on our own systems because of cyber threats. So using the digitalization platform, information gets to the customers real time. And like for our system, we are able to send it on SMS right to the customer's phone and also to their emails, so they can know if we're not flying in because of an accident on the runway, or because of flooding in an airport, or like the way there's monsoon in India. And sometimes when we're doing a charter, we are not able to go in because the customer will not be able to get the cargo there. So those kinds of information the customers can get real time. Our customers here can know when we have canceled a flight and they can replan. So it helps in terms of helping the customer to do their own planning, to change. And when we tell them when we'll go next, then they would know what to do.
Thank you. So Sam, would you like to add anything onto that, mainly in terms of if there's a surge in demand, sudden surge or dip in demand?
How technology or digitization could help in that? I think there it's sometimes crazy to see how connected we are and how digital everything is, and still how hard it is to have correct information trickle through, and being notified of a certain event, incident, or whatever is one thing. But I think we still could use more what is already there in forms of digitization to then also come up with solutions, because where it used to would be an issue to change a routing, for example, or an airport to land, or companies to use. There we still see that how digitized everything is still quite rigid when something goes wrong. And I think there companies should take it up for themselves to stress test more their own systems, question themselves, like, am I ready for certain events or certain incidents to happen, and how will I tackle them to still serve my customer to the best of my abilities. And I think there, digitization will or can only play a crucial role, and that's something that I think should be more explored sometimes, or more, companies should challenge themselves more. What if, and not, okay, we'll inform and we'll cancel something, or it will not go through. No, how we'll still manage to find a solution and still make it happen.
Thank you, Sam. So my next question is from Moses. Various studies show that getting consistent data and changing strategy based on results are top KPI challenges among shippers, followed by closely merging data across multiple providers. So how are you planning to address those challenges?
Basically, when it comes to digitalization, we also measure KPIs based on how the output is. In an instance whereby you are giving someone a task to do, at what rate is he going to finish the task based on the platform that he or she has been given with. In the past, before let's say digitalization, someone could take, let's say, a week to do a report, and you won't know where someone is doing it. But now, with the digital, you can just maybe with let's say the new platform of let's say the artificial intelligence, or you can promptly do the report. And maybe let's say you are someone who has been given a task to do it, you can easily do it and execute it through the system. Yeah.
Thank you, Moses. Now we can take a few questions from the audience. Do we have any questions?
My question goes to Jeroen, and it's from his presentation that he made earlier, which is a continuation of the panel discussion. But maybe you could provide more detail or clarity when you talked about the Miami example, where flowers were kept at 5 degrees, below 5 degrees, for 3 to 5 weeks, and then they can also accommodate another 38 days on sea. How then did they perform after the 5 weeks of being kept in the warehouse, and then another 38 days on water? Because I think that's really a good opportunity for us here in Kenya. Like you said, it will help to do away with the flushing, which also has its other side effects. And then secondly would be on the prevalence of disease. When it comes to flowers that have been sea freighted and air freighted, how do you compare the two? Thank you.
I think based on let's say, in perishable business, we always see this situation that flowers are shipped from A to B, and around around Rotterdam and Antwerp, there is this warehousing. So a lot of the perishables coming in from overseas into Europe, they arrive in Rotterdam, Antwerp, and they are warehoused. I think that's a standard thing. Products come in, they're warehoused, and from there we start a trading process. All flower business has taken another route to develop. Flowers arrive. We have learned over our careers that they are perishable, and therefore we need to handle them quickly. The auction will use the price. If there's no market and high supply, let's reduce the price, and all the flowers find a customer. I think that's something of the past. Let us produce flowers and let them put them on the market whenever the customer sees a chance to sell them. What's happening in South America, we have a more year-round market supplying Europe. The US market knows enormous peaks around Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, and the rest of the year is relatively quiet. So around those peak days, they need such enormous volumes. They produce their crops, they ship them early, and they warehouse them in Miami. The flowers arrive from the airport. They are made cool. So again, the make cool, keep cool, if necessary, recool situation. But the flowers are probably arriving around 10, 15 degrees Celsius. They are arrived, pallets are broken, boxes are cold, and they're put into a storage situation. From there, as the peak days comes closer, as the orders start coming in, that's when they start shipping out. I think it's a very healthy situation. In our day-to-day operations here in Kenya, this week with the extremely warm, humid weather, production is super high, market is low. There's still a lot of tulips in the market. They will disappear only May. And we are fighting for the positions on the shelves. And I bet that at this moment, if you go around Tika, around Quintelier, around Naivasha, you find cold rooms full of flowers. There's good production, no market. We're storing them anyway. But is it under control? Is it at the 0.5 or somewhere at 8 or 12 or 15? We don't know. It's warm, it's humid in those cold rooms. The doors are opening. So we do that storage, but in a very uncontrolled way. Now with the market expecting to pick up towards Mother's Day, prices are coming, but at that moment we put flowers that's with a certain history, an unknown history. We lack the data. We cannot make any decisions. But there is a fair risk that we put poor quality flowers on the shelves. And I think that is what I want to prevent. And I think that storage situation, it's there in Miami, and it should be around on the Kenyan side, on the Dutch side, on the Belgium side. But I think there is an opportunity for that warehousing. And especially if we take the learnings from the sea freight, boxes on skids, boxes with air circulation, we're not too far away. But it does require a fantastic performing cold chain. And that's something that we can deliver in air and in sea freight. And I think that we've worked with developing sea freight in 15 countries, 9 countries around the world, 15 different routes, from Vietnam and Malaysia to Japan and Australia, from Ecuador into Netherlands, from Ecuador into Japan, from Colombia into Netherlands, into Spain. Sea freight will work. And the most professional sea freight shippers will get results as good as the best air freight shippers. But do this air freight in a Juwakali way, and we will fail. Do the sea freight in a Juwakali way, and we will also fail. But the professionals will make both of it work.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
One of them is an observation and the other one is a question, I think. So my question goes to Jeroen. Based on data and the visibility that you've had across the supply chain, my question is, you've probably been in Nairobi a lot of times and has seen the transportation of flowers, especially from the forwarders to the ground handlers in dollies and exposed to sun and sometimes to showers. Does that disturb you? And is that a point of concern, number one? And what have you gotten from the data that you collect across the supply chain for that particular bit? I say this based on experiences during the events when the journey becomes longer than normal.
Yeah.
And what are the effects of that? The other thing is, as we talk about data and digitization, what solutions are we putting through to ensure that we have visibility into what happens? I want to be able, as a buyer, to see what is happening at a farm in terms of what flowers they have in their stock and what their cold rooms look like and how they're managing their cold chain. But also I want to see what the handlers are dealing with in terms of the temperatures in their cold rooms, and also see the journey along the corridor, see what is happening to the flowers. Because this is a live plant. We need to see what is happening at every stage of the way. So I think the question should be, what are we doing to ensure that we consolidate all this data and all these processes? Because what I'm hearing right now is everyone has their own isolated system. How can we bring all this together to have a global visibility?
Yeah, maybe if I draw the comparison between Kenya, from the freight forwarder to the ground handler over the open road, it's not a nice system. I would really prefer a system whereby we connect directly to the land side, to the air side. That eliminates risk, it builds strong systems. On the other side, our counterparts in Colombia, they accept the flowers from a truck into the airside cold room. And if you watch the news closely, there were 3-4 times running up to this Valentine that freighter aircraft had to make an emergency landing in Shannon. What they're doing in Colombia is they receive the flowers and they pelletize immediately without the make cool step. So without crisscrossing, without pre-cooling, without vacuum cooling. They put the flowers together warm 24 hours minimum before departure of the flight. In Kenya, we're building systems as in, hey, vacuum cooling of a full pallet 8 hours before the flight. That's a unique point for us in Kenya here. The risk putting warm flowers together on a big aircraft pallet 24 hours before the flight departures, the flowers start self-heating. I'll bet that all those emergency landings in Shannon from flights over the Atlantic Ocean coming from Colombia, Ecuador, it's all been self-heating flowers. So I think while I'm with you, it's a risk, we need to control it. The preferred solution is to be on the air side. Let's go there in the future. Currently, with excellent processes in the make cool, keep cool, recool, we can have a better performance than the South Americans. We have something to be proud of here in Kenya. We do have really good facilities and procedures on the Kenyan side. Your other remark on pulling all that data together, and I think this is also part early in the discussion, and also about Eldoret. We have two types of trading systems when it comes to air cargo. There's the CIF, so the grower pays the freight, and there's the FOB, whereby the buyer pays the freight. And I think here, Nick being here, he pays the freight. He owns the flowers. Any claim, anything goes wrong, it's on the account of the buyer. Eldoret will have a big challenge because the CIF growers, it could work, but a consolidated freight is one shipment going into Norway with 15 growers from around the country. That will not go to Eldoret. So 50% of the business will already not be suitable for Eldoret. Well, I think this is where we need the data. We have about half of the trucks in Nairobi airport not being refrigerated. I'll bet that the other half, the reefer units, is not working. There is 20 to 50,000 euro worth of flowers in the back of that truck. So let's have the data, let's switch it on. Because the day the vacuum cooler is under repair, things go wrong. The day we are in a peak day, when the flight, we need to do a last minute order, we need to deliver cold. And I think that's, get that data together. So from the farm into the truck, while we have fantastic airport facilities correcting the poor quality of the trucks, let's not account on that. And then if you have the data, you would quite soon see that it's very worthwhile to go for someone that operates the trucks. I think we have our data loggers in the KN trucks. It works really, really well. It does deliver the flowers colder to the airport by 2-3 degrees. That has a value. That's half a day to a full day fast life, shelf life.
Thank you. Thank you for such an elaborate and insightful answer. So you can connect with all the panelists in the next break and get your questions answered. So based on this,
Excuse me, before we go in the break, and I have 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I want to do a quick poll because this is something that I'm wondering about, and I mentioned it earlier, but can we do a raise of hands? How many growers are here? Okay. And of the growers that are here, but maybe also like some of the agents are here, who is using the e-phyto? Nobody. Okay, okay, that's very clear. Okay, that's some interesting information. I love to hear all the solutions and all the steps we can still take, but I would strongly encourage you, because I see from an airport perspective, but also in very close cooperation with the authorities, I see the issues that paper documents, and not only the phytos, but also the packing list, the invoices, everything still scanned and not digital, the issues that brings, and actually it's a very quick fix for a real issue. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. So based on this discussion, we can say digitalization holds immense potential to transform flower logistics, offering greater visibility, reducing waste, and ultimately improving profitability. Well, thank you all the panelists. Thank you everyone.